Cops apologize for wrongful arrest of national athletes. Exxon reinstalling gas compressor yet again. And government claims to be tough on corruption, yet benefits directly from it. I am Noriko Bulford, and welcome to tonight's edition of Uncut News. Before we begin, do you have something important you want to leak without revealing your identity? Send us a tip on WhatsApp at 592-659-6151. The GPF apologized today for accidentally criminally profiling national junior athlete Deron Roberts. Video recorded at Starbrook Market yesterday showed a group of armed thugs I'm sorry, I meant police, attempting to wrongfully arrest the World Junior Games qualifier as he was on his way to train at the National Track and Field Center. The officers insisted that he was a wanted man, while he refused to get in the vehicle with them. Fortunately, the young man was rescued by the nearby vendors who could tell that the police were clearly mistaken because he was a child. The Public Relations Department has since met with the athlete and his family. But the thing that scares me about this whole incident is what would have happened to the boy if the people around him didn't recognize him. Yesterday afternoon, the police shot and arrested a suspected bandit after a high-speed chase in Queenstown, Georgetown. The cops say they spotted he and another man scoping out a business when a patrol approached the two. They allegedly shot at the officers before riding off on a motorcycle. However, the chase came to an abrupt close when the cops managed to shoot one of the men off of the bike. The other man escaped by running into a bushy area. He wasn't the only suspected bandit to get caught yesterday. Over on the West Bank, police arrested a man in good intent shortly after he robbed a businessman and a cop who were working on a newly constructed house. The man ran off with the victims' jewelry, cell phones, and their wallets before escaping into an awaiting car. But before the car could pull off, the victims managed to chase after the man, hopping into their car and blocking the vehicle from escaping. The suspect then jumped out of his vehicle and into a nearby wooded area. But by then, someone had already called the cops. They caught him soon after recovering some of the stolen goods. Meanwhile, the other two occupants of the getaway car have since been detained. Hopefully, the third time is the charm for Exxon and their gas problems. The company announced today that they are currently reinstalling the upgraded equipment into the Liza Destiny. The flash gas compressor malfunctioned in January, causing the increase in flaring. It was reinstalled in April, only to find another issue with the compressor, this time to the third stage discharge silencer. Whatever it is a key component of the system. Currently, the Liza Destiny is flaring about 15,000 standard cubic feet per day of natural gas. Now it's time to tell you about Best Buy's car of the day. Currently on sale is this 2009 Toyota Axio. It comes with marked rims, new tires, DVD, stereo, reverse camera, and much more. Buy cash for $2.7 million, or pay down as low as $540,000 with around $61,000 monthly for 4 years, and it's yours. Call or WhatsApp 662-0844 for more info, or visit their showrooms at Lot 171 Peter Rose Street, Queenstown, or Lot 2 Lamarsheet, and tell them Noriko sent you for this sweet, sweet deal. Oriano Passard, a typist clerk attached to the Sooty Supreme Court, has just been slapped with a charge of attempting to pervert the course of justice. Ha-ha! Pervert! Passard was accused of telling Ram Kumar Singh, Adrian Chung, and Drick Paul Gobin to lie to the police during a possible murder investigation in 2020. She pleaded not guilty to the charge. Passard was released on $50,000 bail and will be back in court June 23rd. 27-year-old career criminal Calvin Belgrave was remanded to prison today charged with simple larceny. He was accused of robbing a man of a cell phone and cash on June 1st on Hadfield Street. He pleaded not guilty to the charge. Seeing as Belgrave is currently before the courts for an armed robbery charge from 2018, he was denied bail. The matter was adjourned to July 16th. On Thursday, 56-year-old pump attendant Nan Kishore Prasad was charged and remanded to prison for the murder of 35-year-old Arvind Tulsi Mahilal. He was accused of killing Mahilal on February 26, 2020 at Zorg, Essequibo Coast. He was not required to plead to the indictable charge. Prasad was remanded to prison until June 23, 2021. Are you a truck owner that's losing money due to downtime while you wait for your parts to be imported? Now that's just stupid. Truck parts are already in Guyana at Powered Automotive Truck Spares and Engine Parts. They stock spares for DAF, Bedford TM, International Freightliners, and Cummins engines. Check them out at 1161 EE Eccles or WhatsApp them at 6970171. Tell them the Rico sent you and get a discount. It's now time for today's Run Report. Today, the nation recorded 83 new cases. There are now 403 persons dead, with 17 persons in the ICU, 1,772 persons in home isolation, and the total number of confirmed cases around the nation now stands at 17,459. So please, people, wash your hands frequently. Avoid touching your nose and mouth and mask up before you leave the house. When you do leave home, try to avoid enclosed spaces and large crowds. And remember to give 6 feet of space between you and others. On Thursday morning, a 47-year-old man in Number 1 Canal was arrested by police after they discovered an illegal shotgun at his home. The police performed the search of the man's house after receiving a tip-off. The officers reportedly found the gun components in a false bottom of a table. He is currently in police custody. Do you want to grow your money? Sell digital top-up. Become a top-up vendor through Cellular Plus and make some extra cash to supplement your income at your business or your side hustle. Call 685-3109 for more info. 2 minors are currently hospitalized after lashing each other in the head with the same piece of wood on Wednesday. The previous night, Troy Castillo and Kelvin Roberts got into a huge argument after Castillo accused Roberts of throwing something in his drink. The following morning, Roberts lashed Castillo in the head with a piece of wood. Not being one to take a beating sitting down, Castillo grabbed the wood and gave Roberts one lash back, cracking his skull in the process. The two were separated and taken to the hospital. Roberts' condition was more serious and he was referred to the Linden Hospital complex. Both are said to be in a stable condition. And now for our stupid news of the day. This one is a long one, but I believe it needs to be said. The United Nations defines corruption as, and listen carefully, they define corruption as, quote, a complex social, political, and economic phenomenon that affects all countries. Corruption attacks the foundation of democratic institutions by distorting electoral processes, perverting the rule of law, and creating bureaucratic quagmires whose only reason for existing is the soliciting of bribes. Economic development is stunted because foreign direct investment is discouraged, and small businesses within the country often find it impossible to overcome the startup costs required because of corruption. End quote. Does this not sound like an accurate description of Guyana to you? And yet, Ashni Singh had the nerve to speak before the United Nations yesterday, claiming that his government is serious about ending corruption, which I would honestly find laughable if it weren't such an affront to our collective intelligence. Let's get this straight. No government in this nation has ever been serious about fighting corruption because each one benefits from it in some way, shape, or form. In fact, how can Ashni Singh fight corruption when that is literally how he got his job? How does one go from facing multiple fraud charges to having them disappear the second he gets appointed into office? Corruption! That's how corruption. Now, let's take it a step further. How could you fight corruption when corrupt businessmen are your party fundraisers? I mean, seriously. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. And so how could you fight corruption when your government dismantled the anti-corruption agency, SARA? How could you fight corruption when your remaining law enforcement agencies are all horribly compromised and refuse outside help? How can you fight corruption when your own government is allergic to transparency? In fact, Singh is not even our finance minister. He's just a rubber stamp to legitimize the erosion of the distance between the president's office and the national treasury. Think about it for a second. Singh wasn't the one negotiating with the striking sugar workers about money. It was Jagdeo. A quote-unquote vice president should not have that much power in a democracy. Ever seen Mike Pence or Kamala Harris ever doing so much? In fact, I find Jagdeo's consolidation of power quite ironic. You know, he wasn't the first Guyanese president who took over the finance ministry. Jagdeo's secret idol, Forbes Samson Burnham, did it before him. Yes, I said his secret idol, 'Cause for a man who supposedly hated Burnham with all his heart and soul, he's really just like him. The huge power grabs, race-based politics, lack of transparency, know-it-all attitude, I could go on and on. But if you ask me, him having his ministers tell the world that the government is serious about corruption when we can clearly see that they all benefit from corruption is, well, it's actually pretty jacked up if you ask me. Hey Guyanese business people, are you looking for a great way to advertise your business? Search no more. Join one of the fastest growing business directories in Guyana. Register your business on snap.gy and get access to more eyeballs. And wait for the best part, it's absolutely free. Get your business listed today on snap.gy. Moving on to our Uncut News Views poll question of the day. Every day we pose a question about current events in the nation, the region, the diaspora, and how you feel it relates to us. So, you give your responses in the comment, and we'll read the best ones in the following episode. Yesterday's question was, should the government try to compensate flood victims for a portion of their losses? Matthews hardly all said the government should definitely compensate for some of the flood victims' losses, because most of the homeowners probably don't have flood insurance. And also the government should make a budget for natural disasters, especially like the flooding which is expected. Jay Jairam said, flooding is a constant problem in Guyana, and the governments refuse to fix the drainage. And finally, Leo Cole said, the government should declare a state of emergency immediately, so there can be a global response. If compensation is needed by affected persons like farmers, then that should be done. Guyana rescued St. Vincent and Barbados. Now it's time the rest of the Caribbean and the international community lend a helping hand. I agree with you fully, Leah. Now for tonight's question. 75% of applicants for homes from the ministry are young people, but most of them can't afford the cost, at least not for now. What should the government and private sector do to alleviate the youth housing crisis? Think about that question and tell us in the comments below. If your response is good enough, we just might feature it in Monday's episode. Anyway, that's all the time we have for tonight. Check us out Monday for another. Until then, I'm Noriko Bulford saying, have a great weekend. And as always, don't drink and drive, or you'll end up on Monday's episode the hard way. Ha-ha! Good night, folks. Hey, Uncut News viewers, thanks for watching. You can subscribe by clicking on this button over here, or click over there for more news. You can also drop a comment to let me know if you've made it to the end of the video. Goodbye for now.